Hello viewers, me and team here, and welcome back to Let's Play Dark Souls. In the last part we got underway, revived the channel, and we begun anew. So in this part I'm going to actually continue on with the game and, go to the proper first area after the asylum. I know, surprising concept there, right? I didn't get too many questions in the comments. I am happy that you guys warmly welcomed me back, so I appreciate that. And aside from that, not too many major questions. I think the biggest one, and I admit it was an oversight, was that, hey, what about your Heroes 5 Let's Play? That's a good question. Actually, I intend to do that soon as well. Now, how am I going to balance that with Dota in this game? I don't know. I'll probably finish this first because, honestly, this Let's Play, especially with what's appearing to be 20-some minute segments for the most part, it's not going to be that long, It's going to be a week or two, or 3 at most, even if I add some multiplayer content. At least in terms of daily material. I'm not sure I'll be able to post daily or not. That's probably not realistic now that I work full-time, but I can do it a fair amount. Parry fail! Double parry fail! Triple! Nope. We're just going to choose a backstab. So yeah, I don't know that I can upload every day, but no matter what, this series just isn't going to be that long. Because it's not like I'm playing this game blind or I'm just learning it or something. I am going to be chasing the hell out of the game, which means that there's going to be a fair amount of progress mixed in with some occasional, hopefully humorous failure. Anyway, yeah, not too much to say about there. A couple of successful parries, a parry fail. You really don't need to parry anything in this game, but the starting areas are easy enough, right? Right? Yeah. You still have to be careful, though, because this game can be a little bit on the unforgiving side. And, coming up to a case in point here, perhaps. Yeah. Because I have no poise at all, I die. Oh, you died. Okay. So this serves as a reminder, viewers, there will be times throughout this Let's Play where I make an area look like it's easy or something, and if you pick this game up yourself and are playing it and you die, and you're like, what the heck, me and team made this look easy, just remember that part, where I died to the most basic of enemies available in the game. This game is not forgiving. If you screw up, it tends to kill you very surely and soundly. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Someone asked me how I would rate this game on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of difficulty. I'm not sure I can give an unbiased appraisal of that any longer. It's one of those things where once you've played it enough and you're used to Souls series games, it's not as hard as it once felt. The opening area can be hell to new players. And despite that I made an ass of myself just then, it's really not that difficult for me now that I've played the game a lot. So, I don't know. I gave it an 8. I think it's fair to give it around an 8. And you're not like playing I Want to Be the Guy or something even more cheap than that. In fact, there's really not a lot of fake difficulty in the game at all. Very, very minimal. And that's true in Demon Souls as well. This game is very good about fake difficulty in general. So you're not going to see a lot of it, and you're not going to see me bitching about it in this particular game. I know I did, both when appropriate and when not appropriate in my Heroes and Magic 3 Let's Play, but that's neither here nor there. And yes, I will be doing HOMM 5 soon. I'm skipping HOMM 4. That's in part because I actually have Heroes of Might and Magic 5 and all of its expansions already, which certainly does bias me toward doing that next, but also because my understanding is that it's a better game. And we're just going to give 6 a little time. We'll see if it's playable by the time I get there. At the rate I'm going, who knows? Then again, some games never become playable, so we'll see. We'll see. I actually haven't done a lot or heard a lot with HOMM 6, so if it's good or if it has limitations, let me know, absolutely. Continuing on here, now that I died once, I decided to quit messing around, especially when I have no armor at all, and just start blocking things. With the shield, I went out of my way to make a suicide run to pick up. Going to have to roll into some things uselessly there, then actually pick up an item. And it's good. Nice balance of useless and useful. Except for those Lost Souls of Undead aren't very useful. So mostly useless, which is a good balance, honestly. And okay, I'm not sure if I explained this in the previous video. I don't think so. What armor does, there's two things armor does for you in this game. The first is that it will reduce the damage you take. That's pretty straightforward. It's common to most RPGs. No surprises there. But armor also has a poise stat. And what that does is it lets you take hits without being staggered. You saw when I died, when I took a hit, my guy got staggered. You know, I couldn't give any inputs. The more poise you have, the more hits you can take from different weapons before you do that. And some of the higher poise armor lets you take like 3 or 4 hits, even from reasonably heavy weapons. So that is a benefit to wearing it. Of course, you roll more slowly. You can have very fast rolls like I have now, like a medium roll, or even a fat roll. Ha! I've got a fat roll right here I can show you. Wait, no. No, that's something else. No, fat roll's basically just a really slow roll that takes your character a moment to get up from it. So, yeah, and then of course there's no roll at all if you're just over-encumbered, but like most other RPGs, if you're over-encumbered, you also can't run that well or anything else. So you have that limitation as well. And yeah, these guys, they like to block a lot, these guys with the spear, so run up to them and kick them. Just kick them. Put your boot right in their shield and kick that out of the way, and if you're feeling particularly sassy, go ahead and kick them again, so we all know where that foot would go that time. I'm not sure that infects the undead particularly well, but I'm sure it does something, right? Like it just staggers them again, but it is kind of block. Block and bash. Block and beat down. And yeah, when I spam the block button like that, that's basically my Dark Souls equivalent of teabagging something or someone. So, yeah, consider him teabagged. Get teabagged. Oh! And there you go again. That's a very light hit in Dark Souls terms, and I was staggered by it, which means that I don't have any poise at all. No surprise, since I'm running around naked for the most part. I think I have a very modest amount of points from the Hollow Soldier waistcloth. And normally you wouldn't want to wear Hollow Soldier, except for that, as long as it doesn't change your weight tier, well, it's better than nothing. And guess what my alternative is? Yeah, the Deprived class is fun to start with. And okay, the death in the graveyard was probably going to happen no matter what, because I got blocked. But that death here in the Berg was a combination of my own hubris and the fact that I also had even more hubris by playing as a naked character. Fun. Anyway, you have to be careful with these soapstones, and I mentioned soapstones in the last part. That's what they look like. You hit a button on them, I think it's A. Yeah, it's A. And you get to see what people wrote or what the game designers wrote. Very typically, it's what a person wrote. But you have to be careful about trusting them, because even well-rated comments can lead to your demise. Occasionally you see somebody saying, hey, try jumping, which in that case was a good idea. Well, people will put that next to a cliff that just kills you instantly. And people will still uprate that because they think it's funny. So, yeah, there's a little bit of trolling in Dark Souls, but I think that was built into the game intentionally, and you know, we all love trolling. Pick up the light crossbow there. I think this is one of the more underrated weapons in the game for a single player. It's iffy in multiplayer, although it's fun to whip one out, lol, and shoot at people when they run away to flask in multiplayer. So, you know, if you're a forest hunter or something, and you've hurt somebody pretty badly, and they're trying to run away and use an Estus flask, just kind of follow them, and as soon as they stop, just shoot the crossbow, and hopefully they die. You're only going to do like 200 to 300 damage with it, but you know what? That's often enough, because otherwise they wouldn't run as quickly. But the forest and player versus player in general in this game is its own animal. I will probably tackle it in its own episode because honestly, it can be some fun to play some Dark Souls multiplayer, and I am particularly fond of hunting in the forest. So, yeah, you'll get to see some of Gooby if you were watching during the intro screen.
Well, now, you seem to have your wits about you. Then you are a welcome.
Does not sound like someone out of Family Guy. But yeah, that character's built for multiplayer a little bit more than this character will be. And good old Gooby there, if you saw him in the intro screen, he's like 111, so he's pretty close to the typical multiplayer level range. I don't have him quite where I want him yet. I want to get a couple points in intelligence and use some cheap tactics, some good trolling tactics. But he's close. And yeah, I bought a whole bunch of crossbow bolts, and they can be useful, certainly. I I will show off how later in the Let's Play. And, okay, what am I? Why am I stopping here? Oh yes, I'm trying to get the bolts into the left slot, and for whatever reason, I struggle with this. It's one of many dirt moments in a Dark Souls Let's Play. And while they're not unique to me, certainly I will have less tolerance for editing them out. So there you go. I'm going to run here and use the bonfire. And I don't know if I mentioned this in the first video either. If you rest at a bonfire, you do get restored to full. You can tune magic, pick what magic you want. And once you have items, you can put things in a bottomless box or repair your equipment, whatever. But when you rest at a bonfire, it does respawn all of your enemies. So it's something that you want to use only when you're okay with that, or when you must, either or. It also recharges all of your Estus flasks. Although the level that you kindle the bonfire will affect it. And here I take some pot shots with the crossbow, just to show that you can try to manual aim it, but it's not particularly easy to do so. If you get the binoculars item in the graveyard, which I didn't bother getting because I don't really see a need for it for what I'm doing in this Let's Play, then you can actually manually aim with the crossbow. You just don't want to be aiming at anything that's firing back at you, because they will stick you with an arrow as you are trying to fill out your view with your binoculars. So you can use the crossbow to pull enemies that way, though, even at fairly impressive ranges. And that room is an example of chain backstabbing. You are immune to damage while backstabbing. Take full abuse of that in any opportunity. And yeah, here I put on a piece of equipment and showcase the slightly slower roll that is mid-rolling. But I don't care. I want the little bit of extra poise. It lets you take one hit, most likely, from these lesser enemies and not get stunned, which is a helpful thing. And here we're just going to take the low skill approach again. Block and bash. And if you pick a hero that has... what am I talking about? Some Dota 2 bleed already. Good stuff. If you pick a character that has a good starting shield, as in like a heater shield, or a knight shield, really most of the metal shields, you'll get 100% physical blocking. Whereas shields like the wooden shield that I collected earlier, that only blocks 93% physical damage. So there are shields that you take damage even while blocking. You see that occasionally from enemies that use them as well. And pretty much no shield completely blocks fire, magic, or lightning damage. And actually, most shields are pretty awful at blocking lightning damage, except for the biggest ones that take a butt-ton of strength to wield. And yes, my starting gift is the Master Key. I showed that off in the first video when I went to Valley Drakes, and it has little uses throughout the game, although I've already showed two of the major ones, so there you go. It's not one of those things that's super useful, but getting into not the depths, Blight Town, without having to go through the depths is helpful. And I guess I'll cover that more as it becomes more relevant, as in when I go to the Blight Town and or the depths. So after taking some pot shots at these guys with Solaire, I am going to take on the Black Knight, actually. And you'll see I'm going to go down there and run. It's going to say difficult enemy ahead or challenging enemy ahead, something along those lines. And they're not lying. I run up here first to make sure the area is clear, because this is where I want to fight him. And you really don't want even a minor enemy beating on you while you're fighting him, because well, of course I died to one individual minor enemy earlier. This guy can kill you in 2 hits. Pretty much any 2 hits he does will kill you. And he will combo attack, so you can die in one attack combo. And if he staggers you, then you die in 1 hit, basically, as the follow-up kills you. Fun. But he's guarding the blue tier stone ring, and I want that. And, I mean, what better way to showcase how pro of a player I am than dying to a random hollow, beating a Black Knight. So, on we go! Block. And yes, even though he can kill you pretty easily, you can still block. And it's nice in this game to have weapons other than swords be viable. Don't get me wrong, there are excellent swords to use in this game. Some of the swords are some of the better options in the game. But you can also have excellent weapons in the spear category, in the halberd category. Even the large club is really good. So you have some options. Some of the axes as well. So this game is pretty fun that way. I think the only weapon class that really kind of sucks consistently are the whips, because you just don't do any damage, and you can't do any backstabs or parries. And yeah, there it is. It took a hit from me. And you can see that ripped a good chunk off of me, and now I'm panicking a little bit because I don't want to die. to taking one more hit. So after Cheese backstabbing him yet again, yes! Fishing for backstabs is skill! It's gonna be no issues here. Get to heal while he's got his face on the floor. One thing I haven't really talked about yet is stats in this game. And that's a little complicated. Basically what I'm doing in the early game is just taking the minimum amount of stats I need to use things, specifically spells, catalysts, that sort of thing. Since I'm using my starting weapon, I don't really need any help there. So I don't have to worry about that for now. Although if I want to use weapons in the future, then I'll have to be careful with stats. But basically, your strength and dexterity are your stats that are most relevant to using weapons. Obviously, dexterity weapons like curved swords require more dexterity, whereas holding a giant freaking club really requires more strength. No surprises there. But your damage actually scales with these stats as well. And the more damage, the more strength you have with a strength weapon that scales with strength, obviously more damage. And sometimes things scale surprisingly well or poorly. Yeah. You also have intelligence and faith. Each of these modify, with some exceptions depending on the catalyst you use, spells and miracles. And you have pyromancy, which is just depending on how many souls you sink into your glove. So there's a lot of complexity. I should probably cover that a little bit more as I use these things. But for now, it's also worth noting that you can get things to, like physical weapons, to scale with your intelligence and faith as well. So there's a lot of strategy in how you build your character in this game. People build many characters typically if they played this game for any amount of time. It has a lot of depth in how you can build characters, and if you build them differently, they play pretty differently. This is going to look like a pure caster build for much of the Let's Play / abuse, because abusing spells with the right kind of catalyst is one of the easiest ways to clear the game, honestly. If you're willing to farm for an hour or two, then maybe pyromancy is arguably easier. It's also, technically that's also casting spells. But you can get some really ridiculous damage out of max level pyromancy, and you don't need to level up to get it at all. You just need, right around 300,000 souls, and while the souls are easier to come by later in the game, that's still never chump change in the regular noob game. And here you see poise at work. I took a crossbow bolt to the chest there, and was able to just keep casting my spell. If I weren't wearing the armor that I am now, that wouldn't have happened. I would have been stunned, and it would have interrupted my spell. So we're coming up on the first boss here, and it's one of the easier ones. I would recommend, although I forgot to do it, using the gold pine resin. In other words, yeah, buff your weapon before he falls down on you like that. And you can probably get away with this with 2 plunging attacks instead of 3 plunging attacks, which is what I wind up using. One thing to keep in mind is that boss battles do not stay this easy for very long. However, they do hold your hand a little bit near the game. I hesitate to say that, because actually, if you're new to the Soul series, the early game isn't quite anything. But this boss is much easier than future bosses, and I know you were able to do a plunging attack in each of the first 2 boss fights. I think it's only possible in maybe one more, unless I'm forgetting one. And wow, I barely blocked that. I think you can have your guard broken while blocking, and still not take damage, but if you stagger by enough, then you're going to take damage. Although I think it's still less than if you just ate the hit directly. Whiff! Alright, I take a nice club to his knee. No arrow jokes, as this is not Skyrim. It is actually much more seamless in terms of bugs than Skyrim. And From Software is awesome. They do funny stuff to their players. Not just through the direct gameplay, but like people who were able to buy the game before the street release date, they put in like max level Black Phantom invaders, just random NPCs who are level 712 or whatever it is. And those guys would just auto-invade the people who had the game too early and kill them relentlessly. And as a low-level character in an early area, with really no ability to overpower yourself, having such a thing run you down and kill you instantly, there's not a lot you can do about it, even if you're really skilled, which most people who are familiar with the game, I guess, would just have to try and do suicide runs, because with something like that, they can just hammer through you and one-shot you instantly. or hit you with a powerful spell or whatever it is from it. And also, people who abused certain glitches were punished for it in later patches. It's kind of... Anyway, 3 plunging attacks and he's almost dead, so I decide I don't feel like pulling him away from the ladder and plunging attack one more time for a good kill, so we're just going to slap him with Solaire. And he's owned! Yes, after dying to a basic enemy, I basically perfectly won the boss. That's pretty much how it works for me in general in games, though, isn't it? I win these complicated fights in Heroes of Might and Magic 3, and then I teleport myself into an enclosed area and realize only after doing so that I'm out of mana and get stuck there for like over a week of in-game time. Yeah, that's amazing. Derp! And upcoming here is perhaps most people's favorite character in the game. Out of the NPCs, I do like Solaire the most. He's funny. Here's his dialogue.
Ah, hello. You don't look hollow, far from it. I am Solaire of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight. Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son. You find that strange? Well, you should. No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time.
Sunlight is all I need. So talk to him one more time, and you're going to want to do this to make the game easier.
Aha! So I didn't scare you. I have a proposition, if you have a moment. The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined. In a land brimming with hollows, could that really be mere chance? So what do you say? Why not help one another on this lonely journey? This pleases me greatly. Well then, take this.
Okay, so Solaire gives you the white soapstone, and basically that lets you be summoned into other worlds.
Time itself is convoluted, with heroes centuries old phasing in and out. The very fabric wavers, and relations shift and obscure. There's no telling how much longer your world and mine will remain in contact. But use this to summon one another as spirits, cross the gaps between the worlds, and engage in jolly cooperation. Of course, we are not the only ones engaged in this, but I am a warrior of the sun. Spot my summon signature easily by its brilliant aura. If you miss it, you must be
I always
fine.
like how they cock their heads around like that, trying to follow you. But yeah, it lets you be summoned to other players' worlds. So you can co-op as somebody helping somebody else beat a
hello
boss
there.
as well,
I will stay
which
behind.
is pretty nice for
The
them.
sun is
And
a
you also
wonder.
get revived to human form and get some souls out of the deal. So it's pretty nice to do. I'm not going to be taking advantage of summoning other people, however, because I want to show how you can do this even in offline mode. I will summon NPCs, and if you agree to that with Solaire, you can summon him for multiple boss battles, which is really useful. I have soloed all the bosses in the game, but we're not trying to make this game hard. We're trying to cheese it. And this is pretty much the end of the video here. I'm going to open a shortcut back to where we, in the early parts of the Undead Burg, rest at the bonfire. Viewers, I hope you're enjoying this. I'll be doing other games soon too. So until then, the me and team signing off.